The night was darker than sin itself. Clouds smothered the moon, and the desert wind howled across the prairie like a wounded beast. Somewhere beyond the ridge, dogs barked. Voices of men echoed behind them, cursing, laughing, hunting. Amelia ran barefoot through the dust, her torn dress clinging to her like shame. Every breath burned her chest, every step cut her feet, but she didn't dare stop. Behind her lay the Red Lantern House, a brothel that had stolen 5 years of her life. Ahead, freedom or death. Either would be better than another night under Madame Loretta's roof. She didn't look back until she stumbled over a fence post and fell into soft straw. For a moment she lay still, panting, trembling, listening. The barking faded. The men's voices grew distant. Then came silence, broken only by the creak of wood and the slow, deep breath of an animal nearby. Her eyes adjusted to the dark. She realized she'd fallen inside a barn. The smell of hay and horses filled her nose. She pushed herself up, brushing dirt from her torn dress, and crept deeper into the shadows. A horse snorted. She froze, her heart pounding. Then she saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with calm purpose as he poured water into a trough. A cowboy. His face was half hidden under the brim of a dusty hat, his shirt open at the throat, his hands rough but steady. Amelia held her breath. If he saw her, he could turn her in. Men like him didn't risk trouble for women like her. She tried to step backward quietly, but her foot hit a bucket. It clanged against the floor. The man turned sharply. "Who's there?" His voice was deep, like thunder rolling over the plains. Amelia's throat went dry. She wanted to run, but her body wouldn't obey. He took a step closer, his boots thudding against the wood. When the lamplight touched her face, his expression changed, from suspicion to something unreadable. "Ain't you a long way from town, miss?" he asked slowly. Amelia swallowed hard. "Please," she whispered. "Don't tell them I'm here." The man studied her. His gaze moved over the bruises on her arm, the blood on her feet, the fear in her eyes. He didn't need to ask where she'd come from. The torn corset and cheap perfume told the story well enough. "They after you?" She nodded. "Madame Loretta's men. If they find me, they'll drag me back. Or worse." He was silent for a moment, then turned and set down the lantern on a wooden crate. "Name's Elias Grant," he said. "This here's my ranch. And you?" "Amelia," she whispered. "Just Amelia." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, Amelia, you best sit before you fall. You look like you've been through hell." She hesitated, unsure whether to trust him, but her knees gave out before she could decide. He caught her before she hit the ground. His hands were calloused but gentle as he lifted her onto a bale of hay. "Easy now," he murmured. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you here." She wanted to believe that, but the world had taught her otherwise. No man ever helped without wanting something in return. He fetched a canteen and offered it to her. The water was cool, clean, and it felt like life itself sliding down her dry throat. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded but said nothing, watching her with that steady, unreadable gaze. When she'd caught her breath, she looked toward the barn door. "If they come here?" "They won't," Elias interrupted. "Ain't no one rides out this way unless they got reason. You can stay the night. Come morning, we'll figure something." Amelia's voice trembled. "You don't even know me. Why help me?" He looked away, jaw tightening. "'Cause once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it neither." For the first time in years, her eyes filled with tears that weren't from pain. She turned her face away so he wouldn't see. Outside, the wind had died down. The prairie lay still under a blanket of stars. Inside, the barn was warm, the smell of horses and hay strangely comforting. Elias brought her an old blanket and laid it over her shoulders. "Ain't much, but it's clean," he said. She pulled it close, her voice soft. "You're kind, Mr. Grant." He chuckled low. "Don't go spreading that rumor. Folks around here think I ain't got a heart." When he turned to leave, she asked quietly, "What'll you tell them if they come?" He stopped at the door. "Depends who's asking. If they're riding for trouble, I might just forget to see what's in my own barn." Amelia stared after him, her chest tight with something she hadn't felt in years, hope. She lay down in the straw, too exhausted to fight sleep. For the first time since she was taken from her home, she dreamed of freedom, not of running, but of belonging somewhere she wasn't afraid. At dawn, the sound of boots woke her. She sat up, clutching the blanket. Elias stood at the doorway, the morning sun spilling behind him. "Coffee's on," he said simply. She followed him to the farmhouse, her bare feet hesitant on the cool dirt. The smell of roasted beans and wood smoke wrapped around her. He handed her a tin cup, and she held it carefully, savoring the warmth. Elias didn't ask questions. He just talked about the land, the drought, the cattle, the fence he needed to mend. It was ordinary talk, but to Amelia it felt like mercy. No judgment, no demands, just quiet. When she finally spoke, her voice shook. "If they find me here, you'll get in trouble." He met her eyes. "Let 'em try. Ain't the first time I stood between a bully and what's right." Something in his tone made her believe him. But even as she smiled weakly, a shadow moved across the horizon. A group of riders approached, dust rising behind them like smoke. Elias saw them too. His jaw tightened, hand brushing against the revolver on his belt. "Get back inside, Amelia," he said quietly. Her heart thudded in her chest. "Is it them?" "Maybe. Stay low. Don't make a sound." She backed away toward the barn, the blanket still around her shoulders. Through a crack in the wood, she watched the riders stop at the gate. The man in front, tall, dressed in a red coat, was one of Madame Loretta's men. She'd recognize that cruel smirk anywhere. Elias stepped forward to meet them, his hat low over his eyes. "We're looking for a runaway," the man said. "A girl from town. Word is she came this way." Elias's voice was calm. "Ain't seen nobody but my horses." The man leaned on his saddle, smirking. "If you do, tell her Madame wants her back alive." "Can't make money off a corpse." They turned and rode off. But Amelia could tell from the way the red-coated man looked back they'd be returning. As the dust settled, Elias came back inside the barn. His eyes met hers. "You ain't safe yet," he said. "But if you'll trust me, I'll keep you hidden." For a long moment, Amelia said nothing. Then she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I trust you." And that was how a runaway sinner and a lonely cowboy found themselves bound not by blood or law, but by something far more fragile and far more dangerous. The day crawled by like a wounded animal. The sun beat down on the ranch, and Amelia spent the hours hiding in the shadow of the barn, afraid to even breathe too loudly. Elias worked outside as if nothing had happened, fixing fences, tending horses, keeping the world normal while danger waited just beyond the hills. When dusk came, he brought her food, a bowl of stew, rough bread, and a tin of water. She hadn't eaten a real meal in days, maybe weeks. She whispered a thank you. But he just nodded and sat across from her, silent, his rough hands resting on his knees. For a while, the only sound was the soft creak of the barn and the wind humming through the cracks. Finally she asked, "Why are you doing this for me?" Elias stared at the dirt floor, then spoke low. "Because I've seen what men like them do. My sister got caught in a place like that once. I couldn't save her. Maybe helping you is the closest thing I got to making it right." Amelia looked at him, eyes wide. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He gave a small, sad smile. "Ain't your fault. World's just cruel sometimes." She wanted to say something else, but before she could, the horses stirred nervously. Elias rose fast, hand going to his gun. "Stay back," he ordered. Through the cracks, Amelia saw movement, lanterns in the dark, shadows approaching the ranch. Her stomach twisted. "They've come back," she breathed. Elias cursed under his breath. "I figured they might. Damn vultures." He turned to her, calm but firm. "There's a trap door behind the feed sacks. Crawl in and stay quiet till I say." Amelia obeyed, her heart hammering. She pulled open the small wooden hatch and slid into the cramped space below. The smell of dirt filled her nose. She could hear her heartbeat louder than the sound of footsteps outside. Voices rose, men shouting, boots crunching. "Grant!" one of them called. "We know she's here." "Save yourself the trouble and hand her over." Elias's voice came steady as stone. "Ain't no woman here but my horses, and they don't take kindly to strangers." Laughter followed, sharp and ugly. "That's funny," the man said, "'cause I found tracks, small feet, leading straight into your barn." The next sound was the click of a revolver being cocked. Elias's voice dropped low. "You best think twice before you step in here uninvited." Amelia squeezed her eyes shut. She wanted to pray, but she'd forgotten how. All she could do was listen. A gunshot cracked the silence. The horses screamed. Elias shouted something she couldn't make out. More shots followed, then a thud, and silence again. Her whole body trembled. She bit her hand to keep from crying out. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, a heavy knock hit the trapdoor above her. "Amelia," came Elias's voice, hoarse but steady. "It's over. You can come out now." She pushed the hatch open and crawled out, blinking in the dim light. Her eyes widened. 2 men lay in the dirt outside the barn door, unmoving. Elias stood there, one hand gripping his bleeding arm. "You're hurt," she gasped, rushing to him. "It's nothing," he muttered. "Just grazed." But his shirt was soaked red at the sleeve. She tore a strip from her dress and tied it around his arm, her fingers trembling. "You risked your life for me." He looked at her, his blue eyes tired but kind. "Didn't have much of a choice, did I? You're under my roof. That makes you my responsibility." Tears welled in her eyes. "No one's ever said that to me before." He smiled faintly. "Then it's about time someone did." They buried the bodies behind the barn before dawn. Elias didn't speak much while he worked, and Amelia didn't ask questions. She just helped him, her hands shaking as she pressed dirt over the graves. When it was done, they stood side by side, staring at the quiet prairie. "What now?" she whispered. "Now," he said, "you rest. Tomorrow we ride out. There's a town north of here, small place, quiet. I know someone who owes me a favor. He'll get you papers, maybe a new name." Amelia shook her head. "I can't ask that of you." He glanced at her. "You ain't asking." "I'm offering." They left before sunrise. The sky was painted with pink and gold, and the land stretched endlessly before them. Amelia rode behind Elias on his horse, her arms around his waist, her face pressed against his back. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from something, she was riding towards something new. After hours on the trail, they stopped by a creek to rest. Elias washed the blood from his arm, and Amelia gathered wildflowers growing by the water. She wove them into a small bundle and tied it with a piece of string. "For your sister," she said softly, placing it in his hand. Elias stared at the flowers for a long time before nodding. "She'd have liked you," he said. They smiled at each other, a small, quiet smile that said more than words ever could. But peace never lasts long in the Wild West. As they neared the northern hills, dust rose behind them, riders again. Madame Loretta herself had come this time, her crimson dress bright against the pale land. "Run!" Elias shouted. They spurred the horse forward, the sound of hooves thundering across the open plain. Bullets whizzed past. One hit the saddle horn. Another tore through Amelia's skirt. "Elias!" she cried. "Hold on!" They raced toward a canyon ahead. The riders followed closer now, shouting curses. When the trail narrowed, Elias turned sharply, pulling the horse behind a rock outcrop. He jumped down, drew his revolver, and fired. One man fell. Another turned back, but Loretta didn't stop. She rode straight toward them, her eyes burning with rage. "You think you can steal from me, Grant?" she screamed. "That woman is mine." Elias aimed his gun. "She ain't nobody's but her own." Loretta's hand went for her pistol, but before she could fire, Amelia grabbed a stone and threw it. It struck the woman's wrist. The gun went off wild, the horse reared, and Loretta tumbled backward down the canyon slope. Silence fell. Only the wind answered. Amelia stood trembling. Is she? Elias holstered his gun slowly. "She won't be hurting anyone else."